Hi everybody, I'm on my own today. Brandon's in the background producing the show, but I've got some really exciting guests to introduce. Firstly, I'd like to introduce Daniel Vaughan. A lot of you will actually know him as director of Vaughan's Voyages. Where are you, Daniel? There you are. Hi.
Hello. How are we? Hi everyone.
And I'm glad you can come back again because you were on our first show as well, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Back in August, we were on a family holiday in UK, and yeah, I just about managed to get enough Wi-Fi signal to jump on. Yeah, it was good. It was really enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have you sitting in your own bar. So the lockdown hasn't been quite so bad for you, obviously.
Yeah.
And joining us as well is Martin Williams, who is a Scarlets fan, but has come on tonight as a Wales rugby fan. Hi, Martin. How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Good evening. How are you? Good evening.
I'm fine, thank you. And you obviously know Daniel. And for the time being, we have got one person that we're hoping to get on. We got some technical issues going on, but if he gets those sorted out, he'll join us in due course. Anyway, before we kick off about the weekend of Welsh rugby, I think we just ought to mention the passing of JJ Williams, huge rugby player for Wales and also for the Lions, described by the great Bill McLaren as JJ is quick as a trout up a burn. He was one of the rugby legends, and to be honest, I can remember my dad coming back from matches and bringing home the match schedules and the great golden teams of the 70s and JJ. And I think one of the great things is in those days, all the players were known by their initials. They were just so famous. It didn't matter where you go in the world. You would be known. And I just think it's very young to pass away, but I wouldn't be the same having a show in Wales and not actually mentioning JJ. So back to the real stuff. Saturday, we'll start with Wales versus Scotland. Actually played in your neck of the woods, guys. At Llanelli in the rain. I got to say, conditions were absolutely awful. So it was never going to be an easy game of rugby. But fair play to Scotland. They seem to want to. They seem to want it more than Wales. What were your views then, Daniel?
Well, it wasn't a good weekend for Welsh rugby, in fairness, Rhian, and unfortunately that's going on again tonight because we're struggling. The regions have struggled this weekend as well as Wales. Like you said, it wasn't great conditions. It did improve slightly kick-off time, but yeah, the wind was swirling. Weather in Parc Scarlets doesn't tend to accommodate, I would say, lately free-flowing rugby, such as the weather, as it has been. However, there was enough good weather, I think, to play a bit of free-flowing rugby, and I don't think it happened. We struggled to get any sort of continuity going, the ball in hand. The breakdown was Scotland. Throughout the whole game, so they bullied us quite a bit. And that's about it, really. Sometimes you play bad and you've got to kick your hat off to the other team. Scotland have been building a good few years now under Gregor Townsend, and I think they're in the ascendancy. We're picking up after Gatland, obviously, with Wayne and his coaching staff, and it's a difficult start. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Do you think there's any standouts player-wise for Wales? It was obviously a big game after last week. Some of the sort of old guard, for example, didn't have big games, and I'm not convinced all of them did. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's any particular standout performers there. I mean, there's a couple of debuts that the debutants played well. I mean, I'm a big fan of Lee Halfpenny's resurgence since he left Toulon. which coincidentally coincided with him joining the Scarlets, but we won't say much about that. But I think Lee is doing well. I think it was good seeing Liam back as well from injury. Alan Wynne, I think, is fantastic. It's been said a billion times on the weekend, and rightly so, that he's managed to achieve the most caps now in international test rugby. Again, I thought he led from the front. I don't think he had the best support at times across the park, but he's a fantastic player. And look, we will grow from it. I know there's a lot of calls in a minute, to change the regime, but this group have been playing under a new coaching setup for all of 8 months. A lot of those months we know what happened. Back in March, April time, and it's difficult to pick up and get that and that's new structure, the new strategy and style of play sorted within that period of time. So we'll get there.
Yeah, Martin, what did you think of the game?
Well, as Daniel said, it was very disappointing, and of the games that Pivac's been in charge of, it's probably the worst performance. I thought that he made possibly a few too many changes, and I thought that when I heard him interview before the game, I thought maybe that he was taking. I wouldn't say he wasn't taking the game seriously, but because we were out of the Six Nations, he was prone then to experiment with a few positions. He brought Rhys Carey in. He gave this Sean Lewis-Hughes a chance in the back row, and even though he's obviously impressed in training, he hasn't played many games for the region, and then also Will Rowlands. And I just think that he tinkered a little bit too much. And it was obvious that Dan Biggar was injured in the game in Paris, and we didn't take him off. We replaced everybody, and then they started him off against Scotland, and he was obviously not right and came off. So I thought, and Rhys Webber, that was obviously an enforced change, but. I mean, there were glimpses in the Six Nations looking back. Everybody's doom and gloom now, but we did perform well, and you could see the way that Wales wanted to play under Pivac. It's obviously Saturday, but I think it's lacking intensity as well, because and it wasn't at the Millennium Stadium, Principality Stadium. So Scotland had a psychological edge, I think. They hadn't won in Cardiff, but coming to Parc y Scarlets, the Edinburgh players, the Glasgow players, been used to winning on occasions there, so it wasn't such a big psychological thing. But I agree with Daniel. It's you've got to stick with them now, and I think the pressure's off now for this autumn series. It's not, obviously it's important, but the players may be able to relax a bit, and he may be able to play a bit more rugby and get the style of rugby he wants.
Yeah. I think, sorry, Rhian, I think the Welsh media, Matt, they might say that the pressure might be on, not off, in the autumn mind, but that's my one. Yeah. I agree with you. I think it should be all, let loose now. Give it a go, give it your best shot, and see what happens. Blood the youngsters and have a go at it.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk about the autumn series, but I think, let's have a quick recap of the Six Nations, because we're going back months now, aren't we? I got to admit, I found it really difficult to after the weekend to get Six Nations head on, because it was well out of the Six Nations period. I wait for that after Christmas. It's been a nightmare of a year. 2020 is a year that everyone wants to forget. But I think, Martin, you made a really important comment about some of the games, even though we lost back when Six Nations were being played. When we played France, I thought some of the play then was really what we expected that Pivac was going to coach Wales into doing, and it's a case of has this, the gap has been so long and players are rusty and still in that sort of Gatland mould, because there were shades on Saturday. In fact, I thought some of the best plays of the game on Saturday was when they reverted back to sort of Gatland style of play. we seem to have lost Martin at the moment. But so Daniel, what do you think then? Going back, to the rest of the Six Nations then, because obviously we had that massive win against Italy, didn't we?
Yeah. I was lucky enough to be at the Italy game. I took my boy with my father and my wife for the first time. He thoroughly enjoyed it at 4 years old. I played to him, and it was a great occasion. Wales should be beating Italy at home. It's quite simple. We know that. I mean, the next game I attended was the game in Twickenham. A good few weeks after that, and we played well. We had opportunities late on, potentially, to really push England. I didn't think we played that badly to a very good England team, who had just come back from the World Cup as finalists, albeit well beaten actually a year ago today, I think. So, and we all think, yes, what we had in the World Cup and we had over the last 10 years with Gatland and the coaches, it was fantastic, and it was fantastic. Rome wasn't built in a day. That's why we're telling people now on the media as well. Rome wasn't built in a day. Yes, Scotland hit the ground running. I know people will be telling me that now, right? With the comments, when Gatland took over in 2008, Wales won a Grand Slam. There's not many coaches that come into a Six Nations team and win straight up. With a Grand Slam, not just a championship. So yes, he's up against that. It's very. I heard over the weekend somebody comparing it to Alex Ferguson and David Moyes. There are similarities. That was a long regime that he had there as well. Is fantastic, but he's got to be given time to unpick the little bits of idiosyncrasies and of what the team were putting together over the Gatland era. Now is going to be difficult, and try to instill what he wants to play is a challenge, and he's gonna, it'll be a tough autumn. I think we've got to stay with him and stick by the coaching, set up on the players. And let's hopefully hit the ground running after a good few games over the autumn. Hit the ground running in the spring in the Six Nations.
Absolutely. And you're back with us, Martin. Great.
Yeah, sorry, I don't happen there.
Just a quick recap of how you think the Six Nations panned out for Wales.
Well, it was disappointing. I mean, there's a generation now that have grown up since sort of 2005, where Wales have been relatively successful. So, there's a generation younger than myself that have been used to having results. I'm forgetting the dark old days. So, but I do think there is a little bit of the Alex Ferguson sort of scenario about it. The fact that the changing of the guard and but there were but obviously it's about winning. If you look back to the Steve Hansen era, we didn't see the benefits of that until after he went in many ways, and he was on about the performances, and all the players seemed to like Steve Hansen, well, most of them, and he did try to change things. So I think, and when he came to the Scarlets in the first season, we didn't do so well the first few months there. So I think, I from the games on the weekend, I know there seemed to be a lack of intensity because there's no crowd. Even the France Ireland game seemed very free flowing, and it didn't have that real edge, I didn't think. And I think that's because of the lack of crowds. So I think there's but he's got Jonathan Humphreys there, who's had a lot of experience up in Scotland. He's got Stephen Jones there. He's brought Martin Williams in, who was very well respected. And I think, see how the autumn goes. And I think maybe review it then. But yes,
you see a lot on social media about Welsh Rugby Union should have kept Edwards. And I do think watching the Italy-England game, that having Eddie Jones shouting at his team at halftime, because it was still anybody's match at that point, and the difference that Wales used to come out of halftime after being yelled at by Sean Edwards. I just wonder whether there's a bit, sort of they're missing that I don't know. What do you reckon, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm sure the guys that have been there over that period of time, Rian will ultimately be glad that Sean Edwards isn't there, because they're probably enjoying their halftime orange now, whereas before they were frightened to go into the changing rooms, coming in at with a deficit. Yeah, but I mean, Byron Hayward has obviously taken over that side of things, hasn't he? At the minute, and he's a different character completely to Sean Edwards. Yes, the guys who were there doing that, they will understand what Sean Edwards was all about, and they won't, they were afraid going in, as I said, at half time. It's too early to say whether Byron is going to be fantastic in that role. We don't know. It is way too early to say that. For me, I've always thought of it as a 4-year building process. Obviously, by year 2, if we're still struggling, then or every 18 months in, then okay, fair enough. But these guys have only been there for 10 months. Let's give them a go. But defence time will tell, I suppose, Rian.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with the Welsh public, and I think that Martin hit the nail on the head. There's a generation now that never known Wales play really badly. I can remember the lean years and the 90s were absolutely horrendous. But yes, we have to give him time. Now, quickly before we move on to the autumn series, the 2 other matches, I don't know whether you watched them. France, I thought was sublime in places. It's great seeing that young team coming on, and some real standout periods of play for me. Absolutely amazing. I'm very impressed with France.
It's great. It's great seeing France play well. The old adage goes that which France is going to turn up, and I hated pundits and commentators saying that over the last 10 years, because we knew which France was going to turn up, a rubbish France. Whereas now, it was a France who turned up once every 30 games. Well, they've turned that around completely. And I've no doubt Sean Edwards has had a big role in that as well. But more so, the players and the quality of players they've got coming through across 1 to 15 is phenomenal. I mean, the playmaker in Denmark is just absolutely superb. He's come in. He's so young, but he's playing as if he's been playing the game for 5 or 6 years. And he's running the show for them. He's got flair. He can control the game. He's got everything. Kicking game. So yeah, it's great. It's great seeing a great French team. Back in the 90s, I was born in the early 80s, so I grew up, as you just said, during the lean years of my years growing up watching Wales, and we didn't win many games then. And if you won a game against England or France, as we did back in the late 90s, we thought we were winning the World Cup. So it'd be lovely seeing a France team playing at that level again, where we're really looking for that win, sought after wins.
Yeah, we've got a comment by Gregor Galway. Hi, Gregor. He's a great stalwart of all the Three Blokes in the Bodge shows. Dupont has to be the best 9 in the world after the Six Nations. Well, I wouldn't argue with that. I think he's on form, honestly, 100%, totally agree. I think he's been fantastic. Cast your mind back to the early part of the year as well. I won't disagree with that at the moment. Absolutely. So, as soon as there's just the 2 of us, I think we'll go on to the autumn series, and I think we've got a picture of the fixtures, but I do know that we're well, that's the teams, but we're playing Ireland at home at the Aviva on the 13th of November. So, how do you think that's going to go? Playing Ireland.
Difficult. I mean, Ireland aren't going through a fantastic spell either. They struggled Saturday, albeit against a fantastic French team in Paris. They'd have liked to have done a lot better than that, and obviously and push the title. How will Wales do against Ireland in Ireland? Difficult to say. It's always a difficult place to go. Years gone by, Wales have done fairly well in Dublin. When Ireland used to do fairly well in Cardiff, funnily enough, in the 90s. But I think it's going to be a difficult game. If the conditions are like they have been for the last 3 weeks in Wales, I think it'll be tennis and the ball will be going back and forth. So I think Lee and Liam and Josh are the back three. If that's the way Wayne goes, will be fairly busy. But I don't know. I think they will have to try new things as well. I think Ireland are probably at the same stage where Wales are at in terms of a rebuild for the World Cup in 2023, Ryan. So, I think this is your opportunity. You can't look 2 years down the line and then start trying to blood youngsters when you're 18 months out from a World Cup. It's got to start now. Yeah. Fans don't particularly like it when you lose, but I think giving people game time, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I totally agree, and I think you've got this sort of mixture in both teams of the old guard and new, and then the new guys coming up in Ireland as well, and that was obvious against France. It was, and the same with Wales is. Some of these the old I'm not calling them old people because they're not old people. The older players, they're all young compared to me. It's okay. The World Cup is probably still in their sights, but the reality is that you need to bring those. We got such talented youngsters, haven't we? And it's sort of to me using now Gloucester Six Nations just. Do some experiments and get about the media, because at the end of the day, Wales Online are always going to, they're always whipping at the negativity, and we've always been a nation of sort of false dawns, and the number of
drama and bad news sells.
Yes.
And you're going to take it with a pinch of salt,
Yeah, and we in Wales tend to be a nation of international rugby fans and then rugby fans. The rugby fans are those who can see that you've got to give the guy a chance. Historically, it takes 12 months to bed in, Pivat. If you look back at any of his teams, it's the first 12 months where he just embeds that ethos of the way he wants them to play, and then he starts, sort of getting results.
Yeah.
So we're going to play Georgia. Now, that to me is an opportunity to really, sort of experiment then. And what do you reckon?
Yeah, they're no mugs. But as you said at the start, against Italy, the first Six Nations game, then Italy at home is a win for Wales. I'm sorry, if we can't beat Italy at home in this day and age, and it's the same with Georgia. Look, we know what's coming. We know what to expect of them. They've got big forwards, big pack, but we've got big forwards and we've got a big pack as well. And I really can't see anything else but a win for Wales there. Will we experiment against Georgia? I think so. I think we'll give two more guys a go. More experience. It is licensed to thrill a bit, and why not? I think, like I said just now, this is the opportunity that they need now in the 4-year cycle.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I'm delighted for Georgia. I think what Georgia needs,
it's great. Yeah,
against the tier 1 teams and giving them a sort of a blooding, isn't it? They aspire to be in the Six Nations or so, Seven Nations or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's what they need. They need these, to have games and big games against top quality opposition, and I think it's really good for them. And it'll only improve them as a setup, and as a rugby nation. So it's great, it's fantastic. Absolutely. And then finally, the old enemy. Now that's going to be an interesting one, because I think England at the moment are looking extremely.
Martin's back.
Oh, hi, Martin.
Hello, Rhiannon.
You've been here tea, have you?
Pardon?
You had another shame.
I don't know. I lost the signal. Sorry, I don't know what happened. Sorry.
All right. Yeah. That's fine. We're just running through the autumn internationals. We've done Ireland, Georgia, and we're talking about the English game now, which another big one, because England do seem to, they're rusty, but that was their first game against
Yes.
Italy. So, they're only going to go up a gear, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the England game, and they at half time, it was, I wouldn't say England were in trouble, but Italy did threaten them. But it was the typical game that a lot of nations get against Italy. They do well sort of for 40 minutes, and then they sort of blew them away. So it was hard to judge England in many ways. But they did introduce a few new players, but yes, it's hard to judge. But they're in. It's going to be difficult. But it obviously depends on how we do in the two previous games, because we seem to start slowly in a campaign and then build up. So
which is a shame with playing Ireland at home then in the Aviva.
Yeah, I mean, but having said that, the home advantage isn't apparent now with these crowds. So I think that's what helped Scotland on the weekend. So I think that I certainly think we missed Navidi and Tipuric. And James Davis hasn't had a lot of rugby. Jonathan, his brother, hasn't had much rugby. So and Liam Williams, there's lots of boys there haven't played enough rugby. And I was asking a lot to them just to. I think they played. Liam Williams had one half in Treviso, and then he was back in the Welsh side, and he did quite well, really. But not every player can go back as quick as that into international fold. But the England game obviously is always going to be difficult. They're never a bad side. So, but they.
Yeah, we got a question from Nigel Quigley, who's one of the White Walkers. Personally, I hope Ireland mix it up. He's Irish, of course, a bit with players in the autumn game. Should Wales do the same? And I think we think so, don't we? I think we should.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, well, look, I've no doubt Ireland will. I've no doubt Wales will, and I think you've got to integrate new players into the team. You're not going to just pick 15 new players, young players, and throw them into a test match. But there is ample opportunity during this period now to blood new youngsters, give them some experience. Unfortunately, it's not going to be the full test match experience, as Martin just mentioned, purely because there's no fans in the stadium. But certainly, it is. You're playing up against the best of the best, and yeah, this is their chance, really.
Yeah, brilliant. So okay, what are your predictions? Go on, Martin. Put your head out. Go on, put your head over the parapet.
I personally think that we'll. This is a difficult one. I think we'll lose to Ireland, but we'll beat Georgia and England.
Hey, well, you were the most confident one, because when we were talking before the show, we were just trying to work out, who was in the group, and you were saying, well, who do we play after?
Well, you've got to be confident. We've done the post-mortem from Saturday. Everybody's been to get the noose, and it's time to be positive now and get behind the team, as Josh Adams said today. And we need to have faith. These are the players we've got. There isn't many more players out there that could come in. There's one or two possibly, but most of them are in the squad. And I think Patrick deserves a run at 10. He's suited to the style of Pivac a lot more. And hopefully Jonathan Davis will become fit. I thought Owen Watkins played quite well, actually, and I thought his defence was a bit better than Tompkins. And there's a chance to play Lewis Zammit from Gloucester. And maybe play him in the Georgia game or bring him on against Ireland. But I definitely thought Wyn Jones made a difference to the scrum, and I would start him. And but yeah, you can't make a total change of the side. You've got to have to keep a good continuity, but tinker it with it a bit. But I don't know what the situation is with Navidi, but we're really missing him, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Daniel, what's your predictions then?
Well, put it this way, make no bones about it. I've backed the coaching setup to be given enough time to rectify the wrongs, right? But Wayne Pivac and the group will be distraught. They'll be devastated by these losses. He doesn't want to have so many losses on the bounce as well. I think 5 it is. So they will want to rectify the wrongs during the autumn series. The only danger I feel with that is that they might go for tried and tested, which may restrict the amount of opportunities that are out there. I hope that isn't the case. I really hope it defies the public and the media, and gives a good run to some of the youngsters. Martin reeled off 7 or 8 names there now, and they're the future. They're the ones you want to use and start building with for the World Cup. And for me, if we came away with a Georgia win, decent Georgia win, but we played well and lost against both Ireland and England, that wouldn't be a poor run of the autumn for me, because at this stage of the run, it's all about trying new things, getting the youngsters in and hopefully seeing decent performances. Of course, as a Welsh fan, I want us to win all 3, but it's very much either or, I think, at this stage.
I think it's one of those interesting things. Will the coaching staff look on one side and say the pressure that can be put by Welsh fans, Welsh media, etc., if you go down and use youngsters and blood new ones, don't try out, have experimental sides, compared to building for the World Cup, which is what he's been charged to do, isn't it? And I guess Ireland are a bit like that as well, aren't they? It's a case of there's so much pressure by fans and the media that it must be quite difficult for coaches, particularly a new coach, to sort of just put that to one side and say, this is how I want to run it.
I think Wayne Pivac is strong enough a character, having known him. He was under a lot of pressure during his spell at the Scarlets the first season. A lot of supporters were dissatisfied him, but the board of the Scarlets kept faith with him, and he repaid that faith. And as time went on, you could see the style of rugby that he wanted to bring in. And we certainly saw in the Six Nations, I felt that, and we're going back to the traditional way of Welsh rugby. I might be romanticising, but the Gatlin era was power-based, and we've got to keep the good bits of what Gatlin taught us, but we've got this Zamid on the wing, we've got Liam Williams. We need to be using these players. These are our strengths. We have got players that can take people on. We don't want to be like England or Ireland who play sort of a reserved game. We've got a lot of talent, and years ago we took England on New Zealand on in the World Cup. We nearly beat them by playing this open game. Yes, we've got to have defence, got to have good set piece and everything, but I'm backing him, and I think he's the type of guy that will stick to his guns, and I'm right behind him.
Good.
The issue, I think he'll have with that, Martin, is it's a high risk, high reward strategy, right? In an era where coaches now are being looked at under a magnifying glass, like football managers are, in the same sort of time frame, and it's getting closer to those sort of time frames in terms of sackings. I don't know whether coaches now have the opportunity then to just go for it, cut ties. Because what Gatlin did, he used a strategy and a style that fitted, I suppose, the group that he had, and he moulded other players coming in. And if he didn't fit that strategy, they went elsewhere. And we know players, obviously that didn't fit, Hook, etc., Matthew Morgan. But for me, is it too risky? He's got a short-term deal, I believe, this coaching setup has. will he? I hope he. I'm playing devil's advocate here. I really hope he does. I agree with you. I think he's strong-willed. He certainly was with the Scarlets, and that was a very fruitful for him and the club. But will he show that with Wales, knowing how much he's already under the microscope within the first 8 months?
Yeah, what you say, I tend to agree with you, Daniel. But I think he's got to stick to his guns. We've played 2 World Cups, 2015, 2019, and we should have won both semi-finals. But because we didn't use our footballing brain, we couldn't beat the 13-man team in this 2015 semi-final. We've got to go back to rugby, how it suits us as a nation, and our strong points, are playing. We can't take on South Africa. Yes, we've become stronger, but this is just my point of view. I think we've got to go back to playing a game of rugby that suits us as a nation. We don't produce massive players. We don't grow trees in Wales, and we need to be using the strengths we've got. And I think that he needs to stick to his philosophy, and he might not have the time, but I just hope that they need to believe in what he's going for, and I think this autumn, yes, he wants results, but it's not a Six Nations championship. We're not playing. They are sort of friendly games. Okay, it's a new sort of cup, but I just hope that with the pressure off to an extent, he might be able to,
Come up with something.
Yeah. I don't mean to be playing barbarian rugby, but we did see signs of Six Nations. We've had one bad game now against Scotland where we really went back quite a way. We need to get back on the front foot and
yeah. I think it sort of brings us into the next subject, which is the regional rugby in Wales and where we are at the moment. And we've got a question here on what does the panel think the 4 regions are going in all aspects, financially, performance and development, and are we happy looking ahead? And that's quite interesting because the regions at the moment don't seem to be firing very well. I, as a Dragons fan, I think I had really great expectations for the way the Dragons, the team and who they brought in. But I know we traditionally don't start particularly well, but it just doesn't seem. I don't know, regional rugby at the moment, with the possible exception of the Scarlets on paper, I just don't seem to be there. And we've always suffered with gates and attendance, and financially, we're dependent more on the television revenue than supporters. Although you probably in Llanelli have greater gates than the Dragons, perhaps. So, what do you think of where we are in regions at the moment, and where we're going?
It's a good question. It's a very difficult question to answer at the moment because the honest answer is, split it up financially. First of all, we don't know. Like any other business at the minute, globally, whatever field you're in, most businesses, some businesses will do very well out of this awful pandemic. But rugby certainly isn't one of those. Rugby needs supporters, it needs sponsors to survive. It certainly does in Wales more than anywhere. I think they are heavily reliant at the minute on WIU. I know that loans have been granted, etc. It's not a good place to be in. However, looking at the positives, I'm hopeful this will eventually clear off, maybe in the springtime next year. And I strongly and really, wholeheartedly believe that the crowds will come back. I think crowds will come back probably better than they ever have done, because people will realise that how awful it was being indoors constantly, watching on a TV screen, and they'll miss it. So I think this is a calm and I hope the Storm is to bring the finances and the coffers back in via the stand tickets. Development-wise, just briefly on that, I mean, with the Scarlets, we've had an up and down couple of years. Yeah, we've got good guys coming through again. We've lost a load to the international setup now. Going forward for the next few weeks as well. Not just Wales, Scotland as well with Blaine Thompson. The side that played yesterday, a lot of young players there. Yes, we're disappointed with a 6-3 loss at home to Edinburgh, but Edinburgh had a big pack, some experienced players, and we were blooded youngsters. And I think the performance, certainly for most of it, certainly the second half, was fairly decent. I think there's a lot to take from that. Look at the other regions, and the Ospreys have done well at the start of the season. I don't know if they have lost now, but I know they were losing tonight out in Philly.
17 to Zebra.
Yeah.
No,
it's not great, but in fairness to the Ospreys, they'll be in a similar scenario, right? They've lost players to internationals as well. Zebra probably haven't lost as many, and these places aren't as easy to go to as we think they are, Cardiff lost this weekend. It's not been a good weekend for Welsh rugby, and the Dragons did as well. So, but the Dragons have brought in a lot of players as well. I'm sure when they get a run at it, they'll have they'll gel, and Cardiff as well. They've hopefully got opportunities. So I don't think it is right now. I think with the European Cup being that much later this year as well, and we can hopefully concentrate on that in December and January, and hopefully get a couple of teams in the respective quarterfinals.
And
I think that I tend to agree. It hasn't been a good. There's no point hiding from the facts. I think that some of the regional supporters would have been disappointed that they didn't get some of the players that were in the Welsh squad back to play over the weekend. I know. The other nations released some players back, and that would have helped. Even let's say 2 in each region, from the Welsh squad. As far as the Scarlets are concerned, maybe Kieran Hardy should have been allowed to come back, or Jake Ball. The Ospreys have definitely improved this season. From what I've seen, I watched the Dragons game yesterday, and I was expecting a little bit more from the Dragons this season. You've got Jamie Roberts back there. I was pleased to see Ollie Griffiths was back there yesterday, and they were doing a lot of good things, the Dragons, but I don't know what it is in Wales. There's to play for a region in Ireland is a bigger thing than playing for the Welsh national side. Is sort of everybody drops everything for the Welsh side, but we need to how we do that is the $1 million question. How we incentivize people to follow their regions. There's always town against town in Wales, and to try and get people from Abertillery to go down to Newport to support the Dragons, or get somebody from Neath to go from Aberavon to go and support the Ospreys. It's still difficult. People haven't bought into the regional thing altogether, and that is really difficult. And over in Ireland, they're getting packed houses, and obviously not now, but their success has been built on and you're bound to play better as a player when you're going out there and the stadium is full. You go to Bath or you go to Gloucester, the stadiums are packed. It's natural that you're going to play better. So, but I think we need to, concentrate a lot more on the regions and give it a higher profile and not talk them down so much. And it's not easy. The regions are working very hard to get people behind them, but it's not easy. But we just got to keep on paddling the canoe and doing what we can.
Yeah. One thing, sorry, again. One thing on that, Matt, right, is the thing for me, and I mentioned this, Rian, on the one the podcast I was on back with you in August. For me, the one thing that doesn't work, right, it's been tried and tested and it does not work, is playing these Pro 14 or Pro 12, whatever it might be at the moment. There's no teams have come in, teams have gone out. The domestic league, playing it during international windows, the argument for it is obviously when else do you play them, but you can't attract to a public to come in and see players that they don't know. Unfortunately, the diehards will watch them week in, week out, right? Of course, and we love watching rugby, like no problem at all. But to attract the fan that's on the fence, I'm not sure if I want to go to the game tonight because it's absolutely hammering down with rain and it's -2 in Scarlet. Then for me, they are not going to come to Scarlet, especially from Cardigan or wherever they might be, to come down to see a game where 13 of the players are off on international duty. It's bananas. I know it's difficult to accommodate all these games in season, and it certainly is this year with COVID. But for me, that's got to try and change going forward. You've got to try and change that.
Absolutely, and I think again, I'm lucky. I sort of commute between in non-pandemic situations, Aberystwyth and South Wales, and we are really lucky where there are strong local clubs, the grassroots rugby, and that the support for those clubs and sort of under 8s and 11s and 50, the youngsters coming through is really strong, and it seems like, how do you consolidate that support to the regional supports and make sure that I don't know, and I totally agree with you, Martin. The way they put the regions together just didn't make sense. It was just a haphazard, and of course we had the Warriors, and then they disappeared. But I think we got a comment from Catherine Beechner. Hi, Catherine. Grassroots and local teams are vital, and they are, aren't they? Even if they're not, it keeps that interest. It keeps people playing. It's a hub of the community, and I think that's what's come out during this pandemic, is a lot of the rugby local clubs are still, that hub of the community, coming together, maybe not playing, but starting to train, and hopefully now at the end of the week, because I see that in Wales we're allowed to have, for sports-wise, groups of 15 people. So that's hopefully training can start again.
Positive,
to play, I think we need to get local rugby back and junior rugby, because that's where obviously the game, the grassroots is integral. I mean, I think they will be able to play local rugby because, at a local rugby match or a child's match, you haven't got the crowds of regional rugby, so the social distancing would be easier. I mean, if you're playing Aberystwyth against Lampeter and there's 150 people, 200 or 300 people, however many it is, it's far easier for those people to be at a distance. And I would imagine to play rugby when we sort of get out of this pandemic sort of thing would be easier to get rugby started at that level, because otherwise we're going to lose a generation of players. Children are going to forget about rugby, and they're going to concentrate on other things that they can do at home, which we all know they do. And we need to keep the interest. Football in Wales has had a higher profile. We need to concentrate, and because the grassroots rugby is struggling. Lots of local sides are struggling to put a side out on a Saturday. Life will change, and we need to be.
And that we did have a question, and it sort of disappeared. But there was it was about that the grassroots, if you get people interested in those local clubs, how they are, local boys need to come through, so club members will go and support their player climbing the ladder. And I think that's important, isn't it? If you've got a local guy who's doing well in a little club, and then he goes off to the Scarlets or the Academy or whatever, then you've got that little community who will come to the games to see that guy play, won't they? So that's really important. Keeping our small grassroots clubs going and viable is really important, and perhaps we don't exploit it in Wales.
No, and perhaps that's the major positive to come out of my last argument against really playing these games during international windows. When you do play the games in international windows, it does give these youngsters from local clubs an opportunity to step up. So there's of course that's a major positive. I'd like to see less of those opportunities in terms of taking our players away, but certainly it gives fantastic opportunities to experiences for coming through from the academies then, so it's good.
Good. I think we have Brandon popping in a minute to talk about Movember. Are you guys doing anything about Movember? Daniel, you've got a nice mo.
Yeah, I look like Freddie Mercury. Anyway.
Martin had a shave before he came on the show, so he might have had a mo there, but not now.
No, I've had a November for a while, but no, it's I forgot about it actually, but yeah, it's I don't know what you call this, but
clean shaven, Matt.
Yeah,
Brandon, there's no mo.
I only hit puberty yesterday, so it might take a few years to come through. Yeah, this year I'm doing Movember. Movember is a fantastic charity that raises awareness for a load of different issues to do that men struggle with. The one that I'm really going to focus on is mental health, something that I've struggled with and many men struggle with. And it's a huge issue amongst men because, as Daniel and maybe Martin will know, we are awful at talking about how we feel. We just don't do it. And yeah, it's something very, very important that men feel able to do that. It's crazy that, the biggest killer of men under the age of 50 is suicide, which is absolutely astounding. And it's a huge issue. And as well in rugby, we see a lot of people now beginning to talk about mental health, which is fantastic. So I'm going to be growing a mustache, or attempting to. We'll see what happens. I am going to drop the link to my Movember page in the chat if anyone wants to donate. You don't have to, it's fine, but it's just something that if you'd like to, you're more than welcome to. And it's been amazing, the support so far. I've set a target of £100. That was 3 hours ago, and we're already at £45. So people are really supporting it. So if people want to support, they're more than welcome to do that. If you can't support financially, just share the page, etc. And let's raise awareness for something really important. Absolutely. So
I'm just going to do it.
Let's see if anything actually happens. You probably stand a better chance than me, to be honest, because
yeah, good luck with that.
Thank you. I'll put the link in the chat. I'm going to drop out and I'll be gone.
Oh, he just left because he doesn't want to talk about the Ospreys, especially after the result tonight. Oh, and Martin's got.
Are we going to talk about the Ospreys?
I said you rushed off before you could talk about the Ospreys. Have you got a comment?
I can talk about the Ospreys if you want. Well, right. Ospreys. I'll give my 30 seconds thought on the Ospreys. We've been so good so far this season. We've beaten Glasgow. We played really good rugby at points, and now we've gone and lost to Zebra. And I know Daniel said going away to Zebra is not an easy game, and on a Monday night it's a little bit different and everything like that. But we should not be losing to Zebra. Really should not be losing to Zebra, in my opinion. They haven't really shown me anything thus far this season. I have not watched this game, obviously, because I was behind the scenes doing this. But they hadn't showed me anything this season that made me think, oh yeah, this side could cause trouble for the Ospreys. But on the whole, I'm very encouraged by what we've done this season. I think Martin's talked about Owen Watkin. I thought he played brilliantly for Wales, and I've been a massive fan of him. And honestly, I'd have liked to have seen him play instead of Hadley Parkes when Hadley Parkes was playing for us. To see what he could do. So I think, we've done some good little business, like getting Stephen Myler in, decent little bit of business with Anscombe out injured, and Webb coming back as well, has played well. And of course, we've got the God, Alan Wynne-Jones, in our team as well. So on the whole, I'm quite encouraged about the Ospreys. But yeah, again, it's about building. It's the same with Wales. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience. People have to be understanding that we're not going to be the 2008, 2009 team, Lee Burns, Shane Williams, James Hook. We're not going to be that for a while.
Yeah, I was quite impressed with Kieran Williams. What I've seen of him, he looks to have the all the attributes, to do it. And I was also impressed with the scrum half that played. Was it something Williams? I forget his name.
Ruben Morgan Williams. Yeah,
that's the guy. I was quite impressed with them, and it looks to me as if they've changed their style of rugby, and there seems to be more enthusiasm in the side, and it seems as if they're far more eager and happier playing rugby. They look as if they're playing with a bit more of a smile on their face. But,
we hadn't won away for 18 months, so obviously we'd really struggled. But as you said, Kieran Williams looks good. Ruben Morgan Williams looks really good. So there's some good youngsters coming through, but as I said, it's going to take time. But I mean, anything this season is better than last season, so I'm quite happy on the whole. But losing to Zebras will be a dampener. Well, hopefully.
As long as we beat the Ospreys, we don't care.
And on that lovely note, I'm now going to drop out.
Right, guys. Well, that's great. We're actually 3 minutes before the end, so just a quick recap. We've looked at the Six Nations, or the protracted Six Nations, and actually we can look ahead to the Six Nations, because we are, we're in November, and it's only a few months now before the next round of Six Nations. But I suppose we'll know more after this, the autumn series, which we've already given our predictions on. What do you think for the Six Nations next year?
England, Ireland at home, isn't it, next year? So that's a good start. I think England and certainly France are going to be the ones to beat by the looks of it. So having England home at least, Ireland always difficult. I'd hope that we can win both of those. Italy is, I know we're struggling, but Italy and Rome is a certainty for me. And Scotland, that'll be interesting up in Edinburgh. Bit of payback, perhaps. I think it's all to play for. But if we get our act together and start playing some good rugby, I think we'll beat Scotland. So the game for me for Wales next year, hopefully, we'll do as I say with the rest. I mean, the game for me is going to be in Paris. That's the big game for Wales next year. That's going to be a massive game, and to see where we're at. Because I suppose in many ways, Wales will, and Wayne and Stephen certainly, with the backs and attacking, will probably want to put us where France are now. That's probably where Wales want to get to, because France are full of power and full of fantastic, skilled players playing free-flowing passing rugby. The offloading game is phenomenal. The kicking game is superb, and I think that's where certainly where Stephen will want to take us. So interesting stuff.
Yeah, and Martin?
Yeah, I mean, a lot will depend as to what happens over the next 3 games. It's all about momentum in rugby. You win your first Six Nations game, and you're on the road then. So it's always difficult to predict the Six Nations. With France back in the driving seat, Ireland seem to have turned a little bit of a corner as well. Scotland are gradually improving, so it's all up in the melting pot. But hopefully, the next 3 games we'll give a chance to sort of develop the style of rugby a little bit, and give a few players that are on the verge of the side to give them a chance, and hopefully we'll go into Six Nations with a bit more confidence and a bit more about us, really.
Yeah, quickly, and just before we finish, Daniel, do you want to give a quick plug for your travel company, because you've got a role to play in the Lions tours?
Yeah,
well recommended.
That's very kind of you, Rian. I had no idea. Oh, we are following the Lions on our trip from South Africa next summer. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. We've got 3 trips running over there. All have like a good few characters on them. We've got Rupert Moon joining us. Ross Harris, the Beast in South Africa, is joining us as well. Gareth Jenkins, Sneffy legend, obviously is joining us as well. Fantastic coach. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I mean, we got a few games. Hopefully, as I say, all the Blues are away next year. Scotland, Italy, and France. let's hope that things go well and supporters are allowed back in, because I wouldn't mind going to Paris, Edinburgh and Rome. So bring it on.
Brilliant. Oh, well, thanks, guys. Daniel and Martin, you've been absolutely super. Really enjoyed talking to you. If you've enjoyed this this show, then you can like and follow us on our Facebook page, which is going round underneath here. The next Tuesday at 3:00, there's a UK and Ireland pilot episode of New England Free Jacks in USA with Big Joe Shepherd and WR commentator, former USA Sevens, Dallin Stanford. So that should be quite an exciting show. So tune in, everybody. Once again, oh, there we are. Look, can I have a mug? Send me a mug.
Yeah, you get a mug. You'll get a mug, no problem.
I could recommend Vol Voyage to everybody. They're well worth going on.
Okay.
Thank you, Martin. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, guys. You've been great. And thanks for tuning in. Okay, then. Bye.
Thank you, Ryan. Cheers, Martin.
Cheers, bye.